So welcome again to the Shoreham View. We've got Sam from the Back of the Net. It's a podcast for Bournemouth. Sam, how you doing, mate?
Very well, buddy. Not too bad. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Looking forward to the new season, which is strange considering we're both playing Championship football. But football's football, isn't it?
No, that's right. We were sort of looking forward in a perverse way to going down to the Championship, visiting loads of new away grounds. It didn't happen, obviously, but maybe this next season will be the one where we can do that. So, yeah, should be good.
So for any Sheffield United fans that haven't watched much of Bournemouth since they went down, what kind of football can you expect?
I don't know. I don't actually know. It's really weird. Well, firstly, we don't even know whether Woodgate's going to be in charge next season. Scott Parker's getting touted for the top job at the moment. There were links with Patrick Vieira, but I think that's the case of our board having champagne lifestyle, lemonade money sort of ambitions. But probably going to be Scott Parker. Woodgate hopefully will still be involved because he did instill a confidence within the side. I mean, when Jason Tyndall was in charge last season, he was Eddie Howe's number 2 for ages. Yeah. So we thought it might be a smooth transition and we can play that brand of football that we sort of became infamous for in the Premier League. But in our last season, we were poor. We weren't attacking. We got a little bit of that back last season in the Championship. And it's not as expansive as it was. It's fairly well drilled, but we've got these individual flair players that tend to pull us out of situations, and that was Dan Juma for us last season, and a number of others really stood out, but they're probably going to be going. So the brand of football that we're going to be playing, I honestly don't know, but hopefully it'll be attractive because that's what we're sort of used to anyway.
So as for last season, how would you describe how you felt about last season? Obviously disappointment of not coming up. It's always hard, especially when you've got playoffs involved, but how did you feel about how it went last season?
It was all right. We started off pretty good. I think we had one of the longest unbeaten runs in the 92, and then it all came apart really, and squad confidence just seemed to be low. Jason Tyndall couldn't really get the boys up for it, and we had a terrible sequence of 4 losses in a row, and it wasn't like they were some of the better teams. It was the sort of mid-table. I always don't want to be condescending to sort of mid-table lower because we're a small club, let's face it, but we were playing teams like Luton, teams like QPR that we should have been getting wins against. We didn't. We lost in a poor manner. And then he had to go. So Woodgate came in and he picked the players up that were at a mental low. And then we went on this streak of like 7 wins in a row. And that's where we thought, oh my God, we actually might be all right. And we got into the playoffs. But ultimately, Brentford, who've been a class apart this season, they tore us apart in the second leg. I mean, we had a man sent off, but we weren't at the races, and they rightfully went up. So it was a disappointing season, frustrating, especially as a number of Cherries fans seem to think that we only have got 1 or 2 cracks at this before we become a Championship club. And who knows, if that goes wrong, we could be a League One club again. So hopefully we're going to give it a spin next season with lower parachute payments to just see how it goes.
Speaking of parachute payments, is there any predicted departures and incomings that have been touted around?
Yeah, there's going to be our tricky winger that scored 17 goals for us, Dan Juma, on the left side. He's likely to go. There are teams like Leicester, West Ham that are looking to sign him by the sounds of it. Our Colombian midfielder, Jefferson Lerma, he's likely to go. And there are a number of other departures. David Brooks, obviously performed at the Euros and doing well for Wales. He did all right for us last season, but he's a tricky player, and he hasn't been in the races, but he'll attract some good money, and I think we'll need the money, so we'll have to cash in on these players, and hopefully some of that can get reinvested, and maybe a couple of other young England stars like Lloyd Kelly, who did well for the under-21s, maybe Dom Solanke back in the day. They also could go as well. But at this stage, it's very up in the air because we don't even know who the manager's going to be. Yeah,
that point kind of, I suppose, puts a dampener on incomings, because if you don't know who the manager is, you don't know who your targets are going to be, do you?
No, exactly.
So, speaking of schoolboy, would you say he's been your star player? We know a lot about him. Or was there anybody else who stood out more last season?
There were a couple of players that did quite well, sort of under the radar, so to speak. He grabbed a lot of the headlines, but our tall Danish midfielder, Philip Billing, played for Huddersfield in the Premier League. Really strong player. Almost looks pedestrian by the way he strolls about, and some at the start of the season thought he was lazy, but then when Jonathan Woodgate came in, he found that he was better playing more attacking as a midfielder rather than a sort of CDM role. And then he started scoring goals. He started creating. He was playing with a smile on his face. He was expressing himself, getting in amongst the goals, a right old playmaker, and then was almost becoming a player that was first name on the team sheet. But there were rumours last season that he was likely to go in the transfer window just after Christmas. It didn't happen. So this is another chance now. So whether he will be there or not, I'm not too sure. But ideally, I'd love to keep him because he could be a key into getting us promoted again.
So we've looked at where you're particularly strong, your star player. Where would you say that Bournemouth need to strengthen most?
Probably at the back. The centre-back pairing. We've got Steve Cook, who's a club stalwart. He got many Premier League appearances, and I don't think he's a player that is likely to go. But when he's injured, then we're really struggling. We're sort of having to think about moving the left back across to the left side of the centre defence. Chris Mepham's been a little bit shaky, highly rated at the time, but when he's played for us recently, obviously played for Wales in the Euros as well. But that's probably the place where we probably need to. And also, I've got to say, actually, up front as well, Dom Solanke is not a natural goal scorer. He did get a number of goals last season, 14, but when you've got people like Ivan Toney for Brentford scoring 29, 30 goals, it's clear that he's a true striker that's very selfish. He's very potent up front, whereas Dom, he likes to take his time a little bit, and sometimes he overthinks it. So he's not sort of quite a natural, but his link-up play is really, really good. So just that kind of striker would be perfect for us.
Just something more like a cutting edge, more of a ruthless side to him, you think?
100%, yeah, exactly.
So what? Obviously, as we said, we still don't know who the manager is going to be. We don't know who the transfer target is going to be. Let's say that you went into the season with a similar looking squad, Woodgate at the helm. What do you think the season would hold for Bournemouth?
I think we would be better than what we were last season overall. I think it certainly wouldn't be a team that would push for automatics. I think if we went in, as the same squad that finished the season, I think we should be hoping for trying to get in the playoffs, but certainly not automatics. At the start of the season, that was our ambition. Now, on paper, we had one of the strongest squads in the league, but we just didn't perform. I think with Sheffield United coming down, which we did on our channel, we did a sort of manager tier list when Jason Tindall was sacked last season, and we had a list of all the managers that we would have loved, and we put Jokanovic at the top. We would have absolutely loved him. He's a person that's got experience of getting promoted, and I thought he was unlucky to be let go the first time he got Watford promoted. He didn't even get a Premier League game with them, I don't think. But then obviously he went to Fulham, and you know what, I think he'll do really well for you. But in terms of us, I just think we're looking at trying to get in the playoffs and just hope that teams like Sheffield United, teams like Fulham are perhaps not quite on it. And the fact that Scott Parker is even entertaining a move to Bournemouth suggests that he must think that we've got more chance of promotion than what Fulham have, which is mad considering they'll have more money in parachute payments. So it sounds like we're giving it another spin, but I would take playoffs, but obviously I would want more than that.
So for the United fans out there, if you were to describe Bournemouth in 3 words, what we can expect from Bournemouth next season in 3 words, what would your 3 words be?
Entertainment would be one of them, because we do like to play. Unpredictability, because there will always be players that make individual errors. So if you're a midfielder or an attacker, just press our defenders, because we'll probably make a mistake at some point, and then you'll cash in. And what else? So entertainment, unpredictability, and excitement. Because you know what? Sometimes it is exhilarating to watch us. We've scored some amazing counter-attacking goals that you wouldn't look and miss on Match of the Day. So it's always an interesting ride, but it's the unpredictability one that is the word that overrides the other two, because sometimes we can be so up and down. So before we let you go, Sam, let us know where we can find you on Twitter, and tell us a bit more about Back of the Net. Yeah, so we've been an audio podcast since 2016, and then a couple of seasons ago we thought, should we put this on YouTube? Because the nature of podcasts, you have to sort of invest in it. You can't really dip in and dip out a podcast, whereas you can on YouTube. You can just click watch 5 seconds and go. So we put all our stuff onto YouTube, and that's now developed as the sort of main thing. So we're called Back of the Net, which is part of a Bournemouth chant. Whenever we get a corner, our fans behind the goal shout Boscombe, Back of the Net. Boscombe's the old name for AFC Bournemouth back in the day, and it's our sort of infamous chant, I suppose, if there was one. But we ain't got many. We're so tin pot. We're on AFCB podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and everything else as well. So check us out, because we do vlogs and fan chats and all that kind of stuff.
Lovely stuff. Sam, it's been brilliant having you on. Really appreciate it. And good luck for the season, but not too much luck, because we don't want you to overtake us.
You too. Cheers, buddy.
They give it up.